So now if you could explain to us what Jorsek is, what the company does, and who are the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Jorsek is a company that focuses on knowledge content. So we have a software as a service application. That application makes the process of creating knowledge content much faster, much more maintainable, much more scalable, and much easier to deliver to your customer across all the touch points that they have. When you're going to buy something that's sufficiently complicated, so we build a tool for people who sell tools, not toys. So it's really B2B are our customers. When you're going through the process of deciding if you're going to buy from that company, all the way to the point where you're a customer and you're deciding if you're going to recommend that company, along that way, the company that you're buying from, they are going to have dozens of educational touch points with you. Some of those are in the very beginning with very light marketing content, and that's not so much us, but very quickly it gets into things where you're looking at documentation to ensure that it works the way you want it to. You're trying the software or product in a way that you're either integrating it into a process, and you may have other forms of reference material that are involved. You're working with their support their support people in order to try different things, get answers, solve problems. Those support people rely on the latest up-to-date knowledge information. When you get to become a customer, there's an onboarding process. It's an educational process where you're taking through the process of learning about the product, how to use it, how to integrate it. Then there's other learning touch points, and there's reference materials after that. And then you also have micro content that will be embedded in products and come up through chatbots and things like that as you're going through the process of using smaller pieces of it and becoming an expert in it. So all of that content, all of that knowledge content can be written in our software and deployed to each one of those things simultaneously and from the same source. So you don't rewrite any of that stuff.
And so why did you arrive at a place where you felt, well, it's a good time for me now to seek venture capital? Was that something that somebody suggested to you, or is it something that you did some research on? Did you feel like the company was growing in a direction that you felt warranted additional attention from a VC? Like how did you come to that decision?
Sure. So I think it was a combination of factors. One of them was the company. The company had reached a point of maturity from both product and organization. We felt it was ready for institutional capital. We thought that we were in a good place. I mean, we were profitable. We were kind of above that, size margin where people get kind of freaked out about companies that are not, in the major hubs. So we had some proof points. But I think there's also a major change happening in the world that was the kind of the stage for this whole thing. You see that customer experience is becoming a really big thing that people are focused on, as it should be. The problem is that people are thinking of customer experience as, how do I get a bunch of analytics and then have somebody reach out to that person? But the problem is that stuff isn't scalable, and the way that people need to be looking at customer experience is by breaking it down a little bit more. And one of the pillars of customer experience is the educational and knowledge piece. And people aren't focused enough on that chunk. And we started seeing organizations that were getting to the point where they were realizing that was competitive. So go and look at any enterprise software company. On their front pages, they say the same things as their competitors, all of them. They all say the exact same stuff. You've got to read deep to realize whether or not one of them is different and where they're different, all those types of things. So where we start to touch the customer is where it's starting to matter, because no longer are we in a world where you can just have a better product because everybody's product is pretty good today. No longer are we in a world where you can just say we're the best because everybody says the same thing. Now you have to be able to start to create intelligent materials that speak to your customer around their problems and their solutions that are going to be a little bit meatier, a little bit more in depth, those types of things. And that's becoming a really important part of the customer experience.
So it sounds like what you're saying is it's helping the customer get a better sense of the product, understand the features of the product a little better, understand the uses of the product a little deeper.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're saying, is that the better they can do that, the better the product can become too, presumably.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Because if the customer doesn't really understand what the utility or functionalities are, right, it's very difficult for them to say, well, I just bought this amazing enterprise platform, because what's in the platform? Like, I have no idea, you know. And so you need to be able to go someplace to figure that out in a seamless, easy, relatively straightforward manner.
But I'm going to pick one thing you said apart. So you said you need to go someplace, but the reality is you don't go someplace, you go many places. And one of the major issues that you see in almost all companies is that the answer is a little different in every place. And that does not reinforce somebody's understanding. What this is all really about is about creating a higher level of understanding for the capabilities and how to execute on those for your customer. Because customers don't use parts of your product they don't understand. And when they don't use your entire product, they aren't as valuable as customers because they're not getting as much value out of your product. So you have to be consistent in every place they go. It could be their cell phone, it could be your support site, it could be the chatbot on your website, it could be the context-sensitive help in your application, it could be the learning course they take when they're getting onboarded onto your system. Every touch point has to be the same, and it has to be high quality. So we document our software in this because our software is a B2B enterprise system. So it's the perfect use case for our system is to document our system in it, and of course we do. And frankly, one of these is we don't sell to companies our size, which is something I always think is really ironic about being a B2B enterprise startup, is that like you're way too small to buy your own product. But I cannot imagine having to deal with the type of knowledge delivery that we do in another application. Like it just, we couldn't do it. There's no way that we could do it. And if we couldn't do it, our support costs would be just so much higher than they are now. And like, I don't know how we function as a business. So, we're pretty.
So you're saying that because you incubated this product and you can use it for your own company, that's giving you some mileage?
Oh, absolutely. Our product is a core component of how we're successful as a company. We run all of our knowledge materials through our product, all of our policies and procedures as well. But our ability, we're a relatively small team, we're a startup. Our ability to punch above our weight in terms of the amount of knowledge that we deploy out to our customers and how much that assists them in the usage of our product and therefore reduces their overall cost to us from a support perspective is massive. So we have the equivalent of about maybe 2.5 FTEs on creating knowledge content, and they're maintaining thousands of pages of documentation. Try doing that in another piece of software. Like, you just couldn't. So it's the reason that we're able to do our jobs in many ways, which is cool.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. I wanted to ask you a little bit about this coffee shop.
Sure.
Because you seem to be a fan of this place.
I am.
And so how did that happen? You know the owner? Does everybody here just know everybody else?
It's a small town. No, I know Wade. He's one of the owners. I know John. He's one of the other owners here. I know Wade better. Wade, I've known Wade since he worked at Joe Bean, which is another great coffee shop in the city here, and they were kind of the first really good, I guess, third generation coffee shop here in Rochester. And Wade opened this a couple of years ago, and it's just a great space. They make really good, they brew really good coffee. They make good food. They brew good beer. They're all great people. It's a really nice place, and it's laid back too. You have to remember that the coffee that I brew in the morning is from here. So we actually have a Jorsek blend that Wade put together for us, which is designed to my and a few other people in the business's taste, which is really cool. And
what is that taste?
So it's a little more fruit forward. It's a little bit lighter. There's not really heavy earth tones in it. I wouldn't say that it's not like an overly sweet coffee, but it's also not like an overly savory coffee either, so it's pretty balanced from that perspective. So when I brew coffee in the morning, I think it's maybe 90% good as it is here. But Wade's really good at it. Wade's a master among his peers. So I look forward to my cup of coffee here on Saturdays and Sundays.